Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Livia and today we are diving into the exciting world of palette knife painting. We'll be exploring the different types of palette knives, their unique applications, and some amazing techniques to create texture and beautiful effects in your paintings. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. So first, let's kick things off by talking about the various types of palette knives. There are many different shapes and sizes out there, and it can be quite confusing when you first start. So the different shapes will serve a specific purpose. The two main types are the traditional palette knives and the painting palette knives. Traditional palette knives are these ones here. They have shapes like a diamond shape. Say, where's the diamond shape? This one. And the trowel shape like this. And then something in between. So this is not a trowel, but it's got similar end. It's got straight sides, which is great. I love this one here. It's more even. This one is the same. It's just a smaller version. This one here, a small version of this, the trowel, and it's one of the smallest palette knives that I've ever seen. Well, probably there is another one smaller than that, but this one here is great for very small areas, very intricate detail. Then you see things like this here, that's probably considered a painting palette knife if we are categorizing them. But I don't like categorizing them. I can paint with any of them. Um, to me, they are all painting palette knives. The more traditional ones are the ones that they've been around for a long time, and there are some that are new. They have like a fin shape and different shapes that to me I don't really need them. This here is good for lines, painting lines, stems, stalks, things like that, twigs. This one is good to create some very bulky texture with that sort of shape. This is good for scraping the paint from the canvas. So the ones that I use the most, I'll just remove the ones that I hardly use. I don't use this very much. It's good for covering large areas of background if that's what you are planning to do with palette knives. This might be useful. I like this shape. I might just leave it here. This one I don't use very often, but I find it handy. Say if I leave it here, this one here, I still have to explore more with this, but I'm going to remove it because I don't think you need it. You can create that sort of texture with those ones here. This one here, hardly used, to be honest. Find it useful, but yeah, we'll just leave it there. I like this one for mixing colors on the palette. I don't like this for painting on the canvas. This one, I think those three are the ones that I use the most. Maybe let's put this fourth here. Okay, so if I push those ones away, actually this one is good for mixing, scraping paint or poking the tubes. This is the one to do that job. Yes, so this here, good for small things. These two here, I use them most of the time to paint my flowers. They're great for painting petals. And this is good for getting into some areas or small spaces that you find hard with the rounded ends. So this will do a better job. So let's see what that is like on the application. So I'm going to use just a test board. I'm not too worried about creating anything, just want to show you some techniques with the palette knife, and you're going to see some clips of me painting my florals, my gardens as well. So let's see what happens. Right, so let's talk about the differences and applications of these palette knives. I've got just a scrap board here and some colors up there: ultramarine blue, cadmium red, lemon yellow, and white. And I'm going to show you how I use some of those knives. See, this here is the one that I use mostly for mixing colors on my palette, but I'm just going to mix on this panel to show you. See, they're great for mixing colors. You can paint with them as well. There is no problem about painting with this knife. I find it less flexible than the others, and also the shape is quite big. So it's not my favorite, but I'd use this one if I didn't have the others. This one here, the diamond shape, not the best for mixing colors on your palette. Or even on your canvas. You can still do it, but it's not the one I would pick. But I'd use this here to paint some small areas, areas that I need a very narrow end, very narrow tip of the knife to create effects, to create lines. See if I want to, I'll just mix that color a little bit better. See if I wanted to paint a stem or create marks like this, I'd be possibly using this here. It's okay to cover large areas as well. It's not a problem. It's just the fuel that's different. So probably not one that I would be picking for that job. But it's a good palette knife, very useful. So then here it's a very large one. It's got a more rounded point, a bit wider, much wider than the previous. And that's a good one for, again, painting large areas on the canvas. Say if I want to mix, I'm gonna mix a grayish color here, for example, just using the three main colors, the primaries. So yeah, if I want to paint large areas, that's a good knife for that job. Then you can play with the pressure, putting different pressures on your knife just to see, what you can achieve. There is no rule here. It's just you getting familiar with the tool and also the feel of the paint. And then knowing what sort of effect you want. If you want thicker paint, you go this way. If you want just to cover the canvas, then you can put more pressure on your palette knife just to paint, just to color the canvas, color that in. So if you want to remove paint, you can use the knife as well for that. Let's do it here so you'll be able to see it better. So you could paint stems that way. Be easier, wouldn't it? Then let's see, my two favorites. They are just the same shape but different sizes. This one here is very flexible. This is a good one. So these are my favorite palette knives, and I would recommend you to, if you want to get some of these, just look at the shape and then the size, because the brands change and then the numbers, the specifications as well. But if you identify what you like in terms of shape, that's the best advice. So here I like these guys because I like painting flowers. I'm in my floral garden series, so then I like doing this sort of swirl motion. They are perfect for that job. I really like these palette knives, and the flexibility is just right. Again, suggest a poppy flower there. Yeah, nice and flexible, good for mixing the colors straight on the canvas as well, and then creating different marks. So they are my favorites. I'm sure you'll find your one. This is just a smaller version, more versatile if you are painting small. It makes orange here. So if you've seen some of my shorts and the short videos that I've been posting on YouTube or on my social media, you will see me using this here most of the time. This painting knife here is great for painting leaves, because sometimes this one here is too fat, too wide, so I need this here for, the points of a leaf, for example. Just mix some green here. So if I want to paint a kind of a leaf shape, this one is the one that will probably help me the most. So that's the palette knife I like for that. Then put a color here just to contrast with this. Very versatile as well. What else we have here? This is just very similar. It's just a larger one. I got that from one of my students. She brought some from China. So I just saw this one here, liked the shape, and she gave me this one. Thought it was very handy. And then this one is very good for small details. It can go anywhere. It's just a little knife. I think the brand is PBO Fragonard. And that's this here, 100, 129. We're going to do here. So if I want to mix, maybe just a bit of pink. So that's good for small areas. And again, if you know how to move your knife, palette knife, and how to control the pressure, you can do anything with any shape. Some shapes will be easier, of course, if you want to paint areas like this, you need this sort of fine point, but you can have a go with the other shapes as well. It's not a problem. So that's how I use them to experiment, try different pressures. Well, let's have a look at this one here, this sort of rounded one. It looks fun. I think it's good to create sort of that sort of shape. It's very stiff, it's not flexible at all, but again, fun. You can still use that. Good for blending colors as well and creating different textures. You can use this sort of motion here, stippling, to create texture. There is a lot you can do with the palette knife. I like the palette knife painting because it builds up texture. It's something you can blend with your traditional method as well. You don't have to paint everything with the knife. You can, work, say you're painting a portrait, you can paint the portrait with brushes, and then you can add a touch of palette knife to the background, to some highlights on the portrait as well. And I can apply it to any subject matter, really. It just adds a freer touch to your painting. This here, that sort of knife, you can create some texture as well, but I'm not a fan of this one. I find it a bit stiff and difficult to use, but it's good for scraping the paint off to create effects. You can do with other knives as well, but it's also good for removing the paint. So if you need to remove anything, this is good. But you can also remove with the other knives as well, so you don't really need that shape if you don't find a good use for it. Palette knives come in various shapes and sizes, and then you'll probably see others. I've seen some fan shaped knives, and they can create different textures, but I like keeping things simple. And as I said, I've got just like 3 or 4 that are my favorites, and then the others I've been collecting along the years, but I've tried them, and those 4 are the best. So this here, again, yeah, so these are my favorites for painting. This one for mixing colors on my palette. So now I'm going to show you the palette knife in action.
So you're going to watch a few clips of me working on some of my flowers in gardens. Let's see what happens. I'm painting a polyanthus flower here. See the palette knife that I like? That's my favorite, and I use it to color the shape, to paint the petal shapes. I simplify the values. I just go with one basic value and then I add shadows, and I make small changes on the go. So I like using the knife slowly just to pull some color shapes into others and sort of blend the edges a little bit. So I don't like the hard edges always on the shapes. It's something that you get with palette knife work. So I like using a bit of the techniques that I learned from my brush work, and I bring it into the palette knife painting, blending edges, pulling colors into each other just to create an interesting look. See, I use the edge of the knife now just to add those yellow edges, yellow highlights on the petals, and I use the knife without any paint just to trim it if I somehow made it go too big, or if I want to blend it a bit, I just use the tip of the knife or the side of the knife to pull it. Then with the same knife, I should probably be using the other one that's got a bit of a point, but sometimes you just don't want to stop. But I could do it with this one, just painting leaves and shapes on the background, and again just adding highlights and adding all the colors, pulling some of the greens into the background to create harmony. I like exploring color. I like exploring effects in color harmony as well. So that's why I do it. It's very spontaneous in terms of creating the backgrounds and pulling those colors into each other. But one thing that I keep in mind is just to keep the values as close to the reference image as possible, unless you have a reason to change, because values are the key. Value is what gives any shape form. It makes things look like what they are supposed to be. I like texture as well, so you see lots of texture. Some areas will be smoother, like the big flowers, the red flowers, they are the focal point, but they have some texture along the way, especially on the highlights. And in the background, I can go very freely with the other flowers that come into the picture, and creating a bit of an abstract look for the background, but more precision, more form for the main flowers, the ones that matter. So that's the final painting. And there you have it. Palette knife painting is an exciting and versatile technique that can add depth and character to your oil paintings. Don't be afraid to experiment with different types of palette knives to discover your unique style. So grab your favorite palette knife, load up some vibrant oil paints, and let your creativity flow onto your canvas. Remember, there are no mistakes in art, only opportunities for exploration and growth. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more art tutorials, tips, and inspiration. Remember to click that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future content. For more in-depth tutorials, you can go to my website and check what online courses I have there for you. The link is in the description box below this video. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining me today, and happy painting!